Welcome back and welcome to the RockPot. I am so excited to try this out, y'all. This is a slow cooker that does not require any electricity, which is awesome. And it says it's supposed to keep warm for up to 8 hours. So I don't know. We'll see. If I'm being quite honest, I won this in a giveaway and they have two different options. They have a bigger size and then the mini, which I decided to go with the mini because my husband and I are hoping to move into a truck camper very soon. And since it's just him and I and space is limited, I decided to go with the mini. So let's show y'all how this thing works. You have a lid. Now, if you get the bigger one, there are a few more components that can go with the bigger one, but not the smaller one. And then you have a rack, inner pot where the food that you're cooking goes into, this extendable hook. And then this is your heating source. So kind of cool, show you how it looks. Very easy to get in and out with the hook. And this, you will actually heat it up either by a wood fire or a stovetop. And they have a whole bunch of different instructions and stuff and care on how to take care of your RockPot. pot. So I'm not going to go into that. This is mainly just seeing how well it works. I will be using this on the stovetop. We're going to try at least 4 different recipes, maybe a roast if I can find a small enough roast. So we're going to try a maple pecan bake. We're going to try a taco pasta dish. We're also going to try bread, which I'm a little skeptical about. And then, we're going to try a apple crumble. This is all in their recipe book, their ebook cookbook that I also got in their bundle when I won this. This also comes with a temperature gauge, especially if you're doing this over by fire, if you're heating this up on your campfire. And it also came with a bag. One of the reasons why I have not purchased one myself is because of the price. So all their bundles are on sale right now. I'm also not affiliated, or this is not sponsored in any way. Like I said, I won this in a giveaway. Just wanted to throw that out there. The original RockPot with the bundle, it is $284.99. That comes with everything that I just showed you, including a bag, a thermometer, and 2 extra liners that go in here, or go in the cooking one, that you can cook other food and stuff, like separate it and everything. The mini one, also on sale right now for $215. I don't know, it is kind of a lot compared to just buying a cheaper crock pot. But then again, this does not require electricity. We've been living in our fifth wheel, Montana for 4.5 years. And personally, I do not like leaving the crock pot on while I am gone. Call me weird, but I just have never left the crock pot on while I'm gone. And then I saw myself using it less and less. And so I actually just got rid of my crock pot. And so it'll be interesting to see. It'll be really interesting to see how this goes. So first recipe, we're going to do the maple pecan bake. And then let's see how this goes. Okay, so the RockPot pot is still heating up. It takes about 30 minutes, it said, to heat up. Also, sorry if I'm talking very softly throughout this whole video. My grandma is still asleep, so that is why. But it's just heating up. It does feel pretty hot. Like, I can definitely feel the heat. And so I have probably about maybe 10 more minutes. So it didn't take long to make everything. I made the custard, also the book, the ebook cookbook. The ebook cookbook. If you do order it and you get the small RockPot, the ebook cookbook is made for the bigger RockPot. So just kind of keep that in mind. I, in a way, kind of cut the recipe in half and just kind of eyeballed it. So we shall see. Also, I used butter to line my pot because it said to spray with some cooking spray. So that is kind of what I did. I toasted my pecans. I broke up the croissants, and that is all done. So now I'm just waiting for this to heat up. What we're going to do is we're going to put this, obviously use the hook. We're going to put it in here. Then we're going to put everything in here with the lid, and we're going to seal it. We're going to seal it for about, I think 2 hours is what it said. Let me read it again. 2 to 3 hours. If this does work out, I could see this being very beneficial for RVers. Travel days, for instance, like if you're going a long distance, moving your camper or what have you, this would be great because you can already have a meal ready to go whenever you show up at a place. So I can definitely see myself using it for stuff like that, or for just a day out and you want to bring a meal with you, because like I said, this does not require any electricity. Let's assemble this. So the tablet, Sorry about the whole setup situation here. It feels very, very hot. So I'm just going to place that in there. You can see how it's looks good. I'm going to place the inner pot in. Add our toasted, cooled down croissants. Toasted. I'm already seeing a problem here, so I think I might just leave it as is. So it's said to press down the croissants whenever you put the custard filling in, and obviously I kind of pressed it down a little bit. It could use a little bit more of the custard mixture, but I don't want to put too much in it. So now we are going to put the lid on, and now we are going to close it, and it says 2 to 3 hours. I already kind of have a bone to pick with this. I know I just started doing this and I haven't even tested out this recipe yet. Their cookbook, their e-cookbook is a little bit, I wouldn't say all over the place, but it is kind of hard to understand. Even as someone, I went to culinary school, and so I kind of know the gist of everything, but in the sense of like how they want you to heat it up and all that stuff. So I kind of want to explain a little bit. So I'm going to show you all their cookbook here. Now it says to pre-toast, blah, 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 add all the ingredients, blah, blah, blah. Insert the heated rock tablet into the rock top and spray, blah, blah, blah. But then it gives you these two ways of if you're doing it by stove or if you're doing it by fire. But the thing is up here, it doesn't say to put the inner pot on top of the rock pot when using the stove, but it has that right here. I hope that kind of makes sense. It was just a little bit misleading, I guess you could say, especially the bread recipe. When we get to that, it was so confusing. All right, so the maple bake turned out really good. That was definitely a fan favorite out of all the recipes we tested. I think next time when I make this, I'm gonna add a little bit more liquid, and I'm very thankful that I cut the recipe in half, but I followed the cooking instructions, and I would say it took around maybe 3 hours at the mark to cook it. Now the taco cheesy pasta dish. So I followed the recipe. Now, user error, I should have cut the recipe in half because mine, again, is the mini one, and you can tell that this cookbook is made for the bigger ones. And so I wish that underneath the ingredients, they would make a note that says, if you're using the mini one, please, cut the ingredients in half. But I followed it as is. I did drain some of the grease out. They did not put that in the recipe. And so when I went to go put in the pasta in it, I realized, oh crap, I'm not going to have enough space for it all. So I did not put all the pasta in, which I'm glad I didn't. In this recipe, they wanted you to heat the stone and the inner pot on the stovetop and cook it that way, which is kind of cool that you can actually saute stuff on it compared to a crock pot where you can't actually saute and actually get some browning on stuff. So that was really cool. Oh, I should also say the pot was really easy to clean for the maple bake. Now for the pasta one, it was a little difficult to clean. They do say that you can use crock pot liners. Now I didn't have any for any of these recipes, but that can always be an option. Now about 45 minutes into it, I also did not heat the tablet on the stove with everything on high for 30 minutes because it was boiling, rapid boiling. And so I was like, I don't want to overcook everything. And so I did not cook it on the stove for the full 30 minutes. And I just put it in the rock pot with the stone and then the inner pot lid and then closed it. And about 45 minutes, I started hearing something and I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And I saw some condensation coming out of the lid and I opened it up and sure enough, it was just full of condensation. And so I think from now on, definitely no more than 2/3 full of anything when you do a rock pot. And yeah, so also the little top part, I don't know, they don't really say what this is for or how to use it or anything like that. So I've been keeping that open, but the pasta dish itself was kind of like a one note. It was okay. It was okay. I'm just going to say it like that. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't bad. It was just okay. I think if I make this again, which I think I would add more seasonings to it. Granted, I did not add the green chilies because my grandma doesn't do spicy, and I could not find the canned corn, so I don't know where that went. Overall, I think the pasta dish, it was fine. It wasn't bad. I also did not cook it for the full length that it said, because after 45 minutes when I heard that sizzling, I opened it up and everything was already cooked, and I didn't want the pasta to like really overbake and get really mushy. So that's kind of one thing that if you were to do something and put pasta in it, that maybe put it in halfway through or something, because no one likes overcooked pasta. And I knew that it was going to be overcooked for how long they wanted you to have the pasta in there, but I followed their recipe. But I'm glad I cut it short. I did top it with cheese. I didn't put the cheese and then like mix it in it. I just topped it with cheese and some sour cream. Grandma got sour cream, I got Greek yogurt. Overall, it wasn't a bad dish, but I just think there were some errors that can be resolved. The apple bake dish, or the crumble, that one wasn't bad either. It was okay. That one, again, it was a little hard to clean for that one, but I did have to use kind of a little SOS scrubbing pad to get it, just because some of the stuff was not wanting to come off. In the recipe, it says bake until golden brown on top. I don't know how they got golden brown on top, because crockpots, there's so much moisture that stays in it. Mine did not get golden brown on top, so I don't know how that's going to be a thing when the moisture kind of comes on top. Now, there was a user error on my part. I did not cook or heat the RockPot tablet on the stove long enough. This one also did not require you to put the rock tablet and then the inner pot on the stove to cook. Some recipes, they do suggest doing that, others they do not. That one still turned out pretty good. Everyone liked it. Wasn't horrible. Now the bread. So I followed the recipe as shown. I did flip a few things. I did add the flour to the water and yeast mixture, because if you do it the other way, it doesn't really turn out right. And that's coming from someone who's made a lot of bread. And then I did cut it in half, yay me, and it turned out okay. It did take about a little over 3 hours to bake, if I'm being quite honest. I did take it with me to run some errands with my grandma because we needed to pick up a few prescriptions, and I tested it. I opened it up in the parking lot of Costco and it was fine. So it turned out okay. It was just kind of like an okay bread, if I'm being quite honest. It wasn't anything too crazy about it. It's a very dense, floury type bread. I feel like I could use a little work on it. Now for the bread recipe, they did recommend that you lined it with parchment paper, sprayed, put the bread in, and then put some parchment paper on top. So it turned out really good, but I have a bone to pick with these instructions. I know that sounds very harsh, but I also feel like if you're gonna pay this much for this thing, and a lot of people are probably gonna buy the cookbook because they've never used this thing before, and so they're expecting the cookbook to kind of help them learn and stuff. When it says add heated stone tablet preheated for 3 minutes on high, blah, 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 and then let cook for 2 hours. After 1 hour of cooking, brown both sides. It doesn't say anything about how to brown on both sides. I just ignored it because browning on both sides, meaning like you're putting it on a skillet and you're frying it to brown both sides. And so like that just kind of does not make sense. Like I don't know if you're supposed to flip it over. So I just skipped that part. And then it just says remove carefully. So it says after 1 hour of cooking, brown both sides, remove carefully, it's hot. So it's just very, and at the bottom of each recipe and the instructions, it has, heating the rock tablet by fire or heating it by stovetop. Now it does not say how hot the stovetop, when you heat it on the stovetop, how hot it should be. Now it tells you how hot it should be if you're doing it by the fire. And I'm assuming it's the same for the stove, but then again, like it's not clear, like I said. And so the heating for the rock tablet on the stovetop contradicts a lot of the instructions on some of the recipes. So I think there needs to be a little bit of reworking with the actual recipe itself. You can kind of tell that they made this recipe book with someone who's already used a rock pot quite a few times. When you make recipes, it's super important that you do it. Sorry if I'm being quiet, my grandma is still asleep. You need to make recipes through the eyes of someone who has not used this before. Now, should you buy this, and would I actually buy this with my own money? Like I said, I want this in a giveaway. If I paid money for this and I was using the cookbook, I would probably get a little frustrated. It's just pretty confusing. even for me. I would say if you buy it, maybe don't buy the cookbook. Now, if it comes in a bundle, that's fine. And I would say use the cookbook more as a inspiration versus how to actually use it. I think it's just going to be a lot of trial and error at first, and just kind of know that that's how it's just going to be, and then you'll kind of get the hang of it. Now, if I was using this for the first time and didn't have a cookbook, didn't purchase the cookbook, I think the first few recipes I would do would be some sort of soups, because I feel like you can't really go wrong with that when it comes to this and heating it. So that way you're just not wasting food to try to figure this out. So I would probably do some like soups or stews first off to kind of test this out to see how it works. Go on Pinterest and look up crock-pot recipes and do something like that. It did say whenever you put the rock tablet on the stove first and then you put the inner pot on top to cook everything, there are a few things that they recommend to not cook with it, like bread or puddings or like the French toast, to not do stuff like that. So there might be some things where you're like, you know what, I want to be able to saute my vegetables and, you know, brown your meat. Then yeah, do it on the stove with the rock tablet and the inner pot on top, and then maybe take it off and then let the rock tablet heat up some more. I should have done that with the taco pasta dish. I should have just heated everything up with the rock tablet at the beginning and then taken the inner pot off, let it to the side, and then let the rock tablet keep heating. Because if you let it on for like a half hour at the beginning, like it said, everything's already cooked. Like there's no point. Like it's just going to keep cooking even more versus keeping it warm, if that makes sense. So that's just kind of my 2 cents. If I was to use this from the beginning with no cookbook, do soups or stews first. Now, one thing I did not try with this is that apparently it stays warm for about 8 hours. Now, I did not try that. I know some of y'all are going to say this is not a full review video, but I wanted to try different types of recipes in their cookbook. And so that's kind of what I did it. Now, I will say that it had been pretty warm, like when I let it cool down and stuff, it was still pretty warm. But I think if you are going to do it for 8 hours or so, that you might need to leave it on longer. You need to let it heat longer on the stove if you're going to do something like that. Because when I would do the bread, after like 3 hours, I'd open it up and it didn't feel hot enough to like bake bread, if that makes sense. So I don't know if I just need to leave it on the stovetop longer to heat, but that's just kind of one thing that you need to kind of consider, is if you are going to do something that is for like a longer cook, maybe you need to leave it, if you're doing it on the stove, make sure you let it heat longer on the stove. Like I said, I wish that they would put something on, if you're going to do it on the stovetop, this is how the temperature should be. Now it says for fire, maybe that's also for the stovetop. I don't know. It's just a little bit confusing, but I'm going to definitely test that out. I say that because every stove is different. My RV stove is a lot different than a residential stove on the high temperature. So I think that is something that they need to say, because it does come with a temperature gauge for if you're using it for the fire to heat your rock tablet by fire, but it doesn't say, it just says turn on the high heat and let it heat for 30 minutes. And I would do that. I did that for the bread. I made sure to put a timer and everything, and it was still warm, like after, you know, the 3 hours or so of it cooking, but there needs to be a little bit more tweaking. Here is the bag, the case that it comes with, which is really nice. And then it has some, you know, little pockets on the inside to put, you know, the little tong thing. It has a little pocket on the outside as well. And then, so this is what the thermometer looks like. Now, I think I'm going to start using this. I think I'm going to start using this for the stove as well. Now, they say to use this for the fire, but you can see when the red, on the red part, and see if I can kind of make it to where, without a glare, it's kind of hard. But, no, okay. So for the red part right here, that's when it says remove the tablet. So I think I'm going to try using this on the stove a few times and see if that will help to get it warm. Because like I said, I just don't think it got warm enough on the stove when using it. But it did not say to use this for the stove, just for the fire. So I'm going to use this. Now it did say if you're using this for the fire, don't put it on right away because you will ruin this. Do it like towards the end and then it will register the temperature. So I hope that kind of makes sense. But I'm not trying to dog this thing. This thing is awesome. I'm sure the people are wonderful and great. I just think there needs to be a few little tweaks that need to happen to make this a little bit more streamlined for people. But would I actually buy this? I think I would. I see myself using this a lot. I've already used this quite a bit. I've used it in about, I did 4 recipes. I'm going to use it in a roast here soon. I did find a small roast. Sorry, it's not going to make it into this video. I'm just not going to have time to do it and edit it and everything. I do like that you can put when you heat it on the stovetop and you can put the pot on top, you can actually saute stuff. You can get your onions all nice and sauteed. You can brown your meat and everything, versus a crock pot where you cannot do that. Everything is sealed and it's not hot to touch, or however you say it. And so I can take it with me to go do things, or like if it's a travel day, I know that it's going to be sealed, and then once we get to our place, I can open it up and have a meal for us. So when I buy this, absolutely. I do think that their cookbook just needs to be reworked quite a bit. RockPot, if you see this, send me a message. I would love to help you out with your cookbook. I hope that is helpful. If you like this video, please like, subscribe. If you want me to do more videos on this thing, I know this is kind of, I wouldn't say not our normal type videos. I don't really review things, but if you want to see some more recipes with this, maybe like my own, then leave a comment down below what you would like for me to try. I think it's going to be really cool. I have not seen a lot of RVers talk about this, which I think the price point kind of scares people, which I fully understand and I totally get that. I will see y'all next week. Bye y'all.